All right, let's get right into a truly incredible story. It's about a man who, well, he had everything. Absolutely everything you could ever imagine. But this isn't really a story about having it all. It's about what happens when every single bit of it is taken away, and what that reveals about what faith really is.
And that brings us to the big question. The one that sits at the heart of this entire story. What is the true measure of someone's faith? Is it how thankful we are when things are going great? Or is the real test something much deeper?
So, to understand the fall, we have to start at the very top. The story begins with Prophet Ayyub. You might also know him as Job, and his life was just overflowing with blessings. But the most crucial part isn't what he had, it's how he saw it. He lived in a state of profound, constant gratitude. And look, when we say blessings, we mean it on a massive scale. We're talking huge wealth, fields and livestock that were just flourishing, a beautiful and loving family, the respect of his entire community, and on top of all that, perfect health. But that last one on the list, that constant gratitude, that's the real key to understanding him. He never for a second took any of it for granted. And this, of course, is where everything changes. Because life is full of tests, and sometimes it's the people who are most beloved that face the biggest ones. One by one, the very blessings Ayyub was so thankful for, they just started to disappear. First, it was his wealth. Just try to imagine that. You wake up one day and your livestock are gone, your crops are destroyed, everything you've worked for has vanished into thin air. The man who had it all suddenly had nothing. And yet his first reaction wasn't anger or despair. It was to continue praising God. And then the trial got even harder. A terrible illness took over his body, bringing with it just unimaginable pain. But this wasn't just physical pain. It was something that started to isolate him, to push him away from the world he once knew. You see, the hardship just rippled outwards. As he got sicker, people started to keep their distance. Friends stopped coming by. That community that once looked up to him now just shunned him. In the end, he was left utterly alone, with only his truly loyal wife staying by his side through it all. So this brings us to the absolute core of his story. This wasn't just about the shock of losing things. It was about enduring that loss day in and day out. This next chapter is all about his incredible, almost superhuman patience. And I really want this to sink in. We are not talking about a bad couple of weeks or a rough year. This hardship went on for years. It was a long, dreaming, relentless test of his spirit, his belief, and his will. And here's where we see something really important. Ayyub's patience wasn't just passive suffering, It wasn't just gritting his teeth and getting through it. It was active trust. It's the huge difference between screaming, "Why me?" and just knowing deep down that there is a why, even if you can't see it. He chose to believe in a higher wisdom instead of complaining, to keep that connection alive instead of letting go. And then, after all those years of patient waiting, we finally get to the turning point. Ayyub turns to God. But it's how he does it. That's what makes this so powerful. Just think about it for a second. After everything he had been through, he had every right to be angry, to demand answers, to complain. But he didn't do any of that. This was his prayer. That's it. It is so simple but so incredibly profound. It's not a complaint, it's just a statement of his reality. And it's not a demand, it's just an appeal to mercy. In that one humble sentence, you can feel the weight of all those years of unwavering faith. The answer to that prayer, it was immediate. It was miraculous. The entire story just flips. All the hardship and pain gives way to relief, to restoration, and just awe. So, here's what happened. A simple instruction comes to him. Strike the ground with your foot. And when he does, a spring of cool, fresh water bursts forth. He's told to wash himself and drink from it. And the moment he does, the illness is gone. His strength is back. He's completely restored. But the story doesn't end there. And this is what's so amazing. It wasn't just about getting things back to how they were. Everything was restored. His health, his family, his wealth. But it was all multiplied, returned to him in even greater abundance than he had before. His patience was rewarded beyond anything he could have imagined. So what's the point of all this? What can we learn from it? The story of Ayyub is so much more than an old tale. It is packed with lessons that are so relevant for us, right here, right now, whenever we face our own challenges. A few things really stand out. First, that patience isn't just about putting up with pain, it's about actively trusting there's a bigger plan. Second, going through a hard time doesn't mean you've been abandoned. Sometimes these trials are actually a way to purify us, to make us stronger. And finally, it shows us the incredible power of a truly sincere and humble prayer. And that's really where this story can help us in your own lives. Whenever you feel lost, or sick, or just totally alone and forgotten, remember Ayyub. Remember this example of someone who went through the absolute worst and never, ever gave up hope.
So I'll leave you with this final thought to carry with you. When you face your own test, whether it's big or small, what will you choose to focus on? The pain of the moment or the possibility of mercy? The suffering or the quiet strength of active trust?